Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us today on Leadership Log, which is a podcast for the Air Force Lifecycle Management Center community on topics of interest. And the topic of discussion today is career planning, but with a bent towards professional fulfillment. So we've got a number of representatives joining us today to talk about how career planning has impacted them. We're going to go through and just let everybody introduce themselves to start, and then we will start the discussion. So we're going to start with Ms. Davis. Ma'am, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning. I'm Mary Davis. I'm representing the cyber operations. I'm at Gunner.
Okay. And Ms. Tillman?
Good morning. Alicia Tillman. I am the Financial Management Chief for the Hanscom operating location at Hanscom Air Force Base in Massachusetts.
Thank you. And Mr. Wymans?
Hi, good morning. Dan Wymans. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the Armament Systems Development Division down at Eglin Air Force Base.
And Mr. Pollock?
Good morning. My name is Craig Pollock. I'm the Resource Management OL Lead for Logistics and Logistics Services at Tinker Air Force Base.
And Dr. Weber?
Good morning. I'm Yvette Weber. I'm the Associate Deputy Assistant Secretary for Science, Technology, and Engineering.
Thank you. And Mr. Beck?
Good morning. I'm Matt Beck. I'm the MH-139A Gray Wolf Program Manager at Wright-Patt.
Mr. Jenkins?
Hey, good morning. My name is Kent Jenkins. I'm the Deputy Director of the 88th Mission Support Group at Wright-Patterson.
Mr. Agnew?
Good morning. I'm John Agnew. I'm the Avionics Division Chief here at Wright-Patterson.
Mr. Johnson?
Good morning, Rob Johnson. I'm the Contracting Senior Functional for PEO, Mobility and Training Aircraft at Wright-Patterson.
And Ms. Fruworth?
Good morning. My name's Christy Fruworth, and I'm the Director of Contracting down at Eglin Air Force Base.
And Dr. Sawyers?
Hi, good morning. My name is Jessica Salyers, and I am the Chief Talent Management Officer for AFL-CMC, and I'm located here at Wright-Pat.
All right. Thank you, everybody. So let's go ahead and just jump right into the discussion. The first thing we wanted to talk about was how do you approach developing your career goals, and how did your approach to goals shift over time as you progressed in your career? And Dr. Sawyers, we'll start with you.
Great, thank you. So I think this is a really important question. When I started my career in the Air Force 16 years ago, I would say my approach was extremely sporadic. I did not know what I didn't know. I came in and I made my goals based on what I saw immediately in front of me. And so that was based on the organization I was in at the time, which was the research lab, the division and the branch. And I really looked no further than that because I didn't know what else was out there. And so my goals at that time were very grade-based and job-based. And that really shifted for me when I got great mentors who took me under their wing, and I think broadened my perspective so much by really showing me what else was possible, and also highlighting for me skills that I didn't know I had, or maybe strengths I didn't know I had, and kind of vectored me in different directions. So I think that kind of feedback where somebody was tapping me on the shoulder and saying, hey, Jessica, go try this, and pushing me outside of my comfort zone absolutely changed my career goals, and multiple times has changed the trajectory of my career. And that's actually one of the reasons that I made the jump from AFRL over here to AFL-CMC. And so moving from that kind of sporadic, not really sure, to something that's much more focused and planned out is how mine has changed. And that has absolutely been the result of excellent mentors who have helped me broaden my perspective and horizons.
Thank you. And Ms. Fruworth, let's hear from you on the same topic.
So my approach was to establish an individual IDP, an individual dependent development plan. I established some short-term goals, 1 to 3 years, then long-term goals of 3 to 5 years, and then followed by some training classes that I wanted to take. And I took those training classes from the Air Force Civilian Development Education course list. So over time, my goals did change as new opportunities presented themselves or classes were no longer available. So then what I had to do was I had to update my IDP as time went along. So I think the key is that you don't stop planning or making goals, but you continue to, as times change, you make those changes so that you have a plan going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Davis, would you like to weigh in on this question?
Yes, I started the temporary 9, so at that point I really didn't know which way to get going. But my goal was, the only goal that I had at that time was to make sure that I did the best job I could at the jobs I was given, take advantage, of every available thing that was put in front of me to learn. I'm very curious, so I'm always something. I think that's key probably to most of our goals, is that you need to take advantage of what you have and then to the next level of what you're looking at, not promotion, but jobs. And understand, okay, what does it take to get to be ready for that job? Is it a class? Is it a different experience? If it is, go try to get involved in that. But that was how I approached mine. I never looked at promotion. It came as it came, because if you work hard where you, like Jessica said, a lot of people will tap you on the shoulder and say, why don't you try this? I think you'd be good at it. Go take advantage of this. So that's what I would encourage people to do. Be sure you're working hard where you are, enjoy life, balance it between family and work. Don't let either one of them take total control, or your goals will get sidetracked. But take advantage of what's in front of you, but start looking for the next thing that you need to learn to broaden your scope, so you're able to promote yourself into something else, whether it's a job or get promoted, whatever.
And Dr. Weber, ma'am, what would you say to that?
I think I'd reinforce a couple of things. First of all, the idea of doing the work. I think the most important job you have is the job you have. So doing the work is really important, and gathering the skills that come from each job. I would say that mentorship is extremely important, and like Jessica, being tapped on the shoulder, is being encouraged by senior mentors to move outside of our comfort zone is a great way to shift your perspective. And I would also say that some of the courses offered by this through Civilian Developmental Education have really changed my perspective. I was fortunate to be a member of Executive Leadership Development Program, and that year-long experiential training really taught me as a civilian the important role I play as a fighter. So I would say those things in my career growth.
Okay. And Mr. Wyman, what do you think?
I'm just gonna kind of piggyback on, for me, starting off initially, my career plans were very me focused. I literally drew them out on a flow chart and knew what job I wanted next, and that was going to get me to, both locations and positions that I wanted over time. And frankly, that just led to a lot of frustration and disappointment until I shifted my mindset to more of the, I think we need to always go back to, we're here to serve, and look at what skill sets does the Air Force need, what experiences does it need, and to be more maybe driven by opportunities and needs of the Air Force. So when something comes up, be flexible enough to maybe jump on an opportunity or do something that you maybe hadn't planned, but it's the right thing for you or for the Air Force at the time. So I think shifting that mindset has helped me a lot. One, I've done things that maybe I wouldn't have normally done in my career, and two, I think it's been a more of a benefit to the Air Force. It's been less about me and more helping the organization. That's all.
Okay. So a few of you had mentioned getting feedback from senior leaders and mentors. So let me just ask, what was the best piece of advice that you received in your career from a mentor or senior leader? And can you share that with our workforce today? And let's go to Ms. Fruworth. Ms. Fruworth, would you like to weigh in on that, or?
Yes, I'm sorry. So one of the best advices that I've got from one of my mentors was, she had said to me, stop looking at those around you and develop yourself first. And then to put this in context, what was going on was I was young in my career. I came in with a whole bunch of group of people. We came in about the same time, around the same time. And I kept seeing those people getting promoted or getting opportunities all around me, maybe things that I wasn't getting. So I actually kind of felt kind of bad. So this mentor, she actually encouraged me to focus on myself, my development, knowing and learning my craft and developing my skill sets. And when I finally turned the focus back on me, I grew both personally and professionally. And then I was the one who was being sought out for these opportunities and these promotions. And so basically the rest took care of itself. So that was probably some of the best advice that I've ever had. And I still heed to that advice today. Thank you.
And Ms. Tillman.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, so some of the best advice that I was given early on, and it kind of piggybacks a little bit off the prior question too, was, looking to your senior mentors for help, right? For guidance and direction and planning your career and working towards your personal and professional goals. And one of my mentors had said to me very early on, as a financial management trainee where I started my career, was you need to move around. You need to go to different offices. You need to experience different programs at different levels, because I believe Jessica mentioned this earlier, you don't know what you don't know until you run into it. And the only way that you're going to do that is by actually experiencing it and taking the time to nurture yourself and your growth and development within that program office, and just knowing that when the time to move, you'll know when the right time to move is, and not based on a calendar timeline or a grade timeline. It was really, when are you comfortable to move, and when do you have the confidence in your knowledge in that program? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And Mr. Wyman, would you like to jump in on that?
Sure. Ironically, probably the best advice I received was at the time, probably I thought was the worst advice, which was bloom where you're planted. And I always hated that phrase, because I felt like it just kind of meant, kind of deal with it. Just, be happy with what you got. And it turns out that it's really exceptional advice. And I change it a bit to just say, appreciate all the opportunities you have. Every experience is unique. And exploit the opportunities that it provides. At the time I felt like there are certain jobs that obviously were maybe more high vis than others, or maybe more exciting than others. But, what I found is the best time to practice dealing with difficult people is working with difficult people. To test yourself under a high stress, situation requires you to be in a high tempo, difficult job. So I would just say, to folks oftentimes that I mentor get frustrated with the organization they're in, or they don't feel like they've got the right job for, at the time, but to really step back and look at what does that position offer. We've all sat on various interview panels, and those things that frustrate people most, or their most trying times, are the things that help them demonstrate their abilities and give them, the things to talk about and to help become mentors for others. So really, to me, the bloom where you're planted, really take advantage of every opportunity for what it is, was probably the most significant advice for me.
And Mr. Pollack, what do you say to that?
I think maybe we have had the same mentors, because I think the bloom where you're planted perspective is absolutely right, because you have to become that technical expert and learn that job and not be as worried about what your next position will be, because it will come along. And that's been told to me by many of my mentors, that quit chasing the position and focus on doing what it is today. Somebody else said it earlier, the best job you ever have is the one you're sitting in today. And it has worked well over my career.
Mr. Agnew.
Yeah, so it's more echoing of what others have said here, but one thing I was advised on is, take some risks. Don't get, a lot of people get settled into a job and it's safe and secure, and they've been on that program for a number of years, and they feel confident about it because they are the most experienced there. But we really want to grow people by broadening their experiences across different programs, different technical designs and things like that. And so encouraging people to, leave that comfort zone and take on a new challenge. It'll be more rewarding in the long run, more job satisfaction, and you'll have the opportunity to learn a lot more than you would if you stayed in your current position. So we value breadth of experience as you go through your career.
And Dr. Sawyer, as you mentioned earlier, moving from one organization to another.
Yeah, so the best career advice I got is similar to these. One of what the one-liner was, never say no. And that was given to me by somebody who was one of the senior leaders in one of my prior organizations. And what he meant by that was never say no to an opportunity. Never feel like you're not ready. Even if it's scary, go for it and do it. And I have heeded that advice multiple times in times when I wasn't quite sure, do I have the skills for this? Am I ready for this? Am I competent enough to do this? And others have seen something in me that I haven't seen, and they've approached me for jobs and opportunities that I otherwise would have never applied for. And in those moments when you're looking around saying, are you sure you're talking to the right Jessica? That's the advice that I remember is never say no. Say yes, jump in, learn the job, and work really hard. And that has been just another, I think, pivotal piece of advice that I've gotten that's helped me in my career tremendously.
And Mr. Johnson, what do you say?
Yeah, I absolutely echo what the others have said. And then those are pieces of advice that have been given to me. But I will add another part to that. And it's really, it goes along with that. It's just, be aware of your reputation. Be the person that's ready to jump in. Be the person that, if you don't have the job that necessarily you thought you wanted, go in there and excel and make the best of it. And the reputation matters as you go through your career. So it's not that you need to focus on it constantly, but definitely be aware of it and be that person that gets things done when the opportunity comes.
And ma'am, Dr. Weber?
Hey, to be able to jump right in, you have to be a lifelong learner. And I have a couple of great examples. When I was early in my career, I had a supervisor who used to take me to the Air Force Museum to teach and explain to me my particular craft, which was propulsion and weapons integration. And then when I became a supervisor, I had a division chief who when it was time for annual review, used to tell me to come in and talk about my greatest strength. And then he would show me how that greatest strength can also be a weakness. Always trying to get me to learn and look at things from a different perspective. So I would say be a lifelong learner and be open to that. And it's never been more important than it is today when we're trying to be so innovative and looking at new ways of doing things and speeding up our fielding of capabilities. So that has served me well in my career.
Thank you. So several people have kind of alluded to the idea of moving laterally instead of moving forward. And so I'd like to kind of explore the idea of maybe there was a time in your career where you made a decision to move into a lateral position and how that worked out for you in the long run. Mr. Beck, can we start with you on that?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, actually, I actually had this experience and it was kind of thrust upon me. So I was 8 years into my career, a GS-13, thought I was hot stuff, knew everything, working as a deputy branch chief of an ACAT-1 program with a branch chief who unfortunately had some health issues. So I was basically running the branch for him when he was out frequently. So I did that for many years. He eventually took an early retirement and his position actually went away. So I became the branch chief as a GS-13 of an ACAT-1 program. I was trying to get promoted to GS-14. I tried for many years and I kept getting told the same thing, which was, you know what, you're just a little too green. And that's frustrating when you've been doing that job for 4 or 5 years. And you know, at the time, 8 years in, you're very aware of how you look compared to people around you. And so I was frustrated. But what I did do is, luckily we just talked about mentors, right? I had a mentor who was also leading the ACAT-1 program. I sought his advice and he said, you know what, why don't you come work for me? It'll be a lateral. And I said, okay, fine. I obviously can't go anywhere else where I am here. So I lateraled to another ACAT-1 where I worked with him. And he actually took me under his wing and showed me what it meant to be an ACAT-1 program manager. You know, I was a branch chief before, which was basically, if you think about a much smaller program, I was running myself. He brought me in and showed me the politics of the Pentagon, the politics of an ACAT-1 program, all the stakeholder management that goes along and everything with that. And truthfully, that really showed me how to be a good PM. And I'm thankful for that every day. I stay in touch with him still because there's so much I can learn. And that really was my wake up moment of, you know what, maybe there is a lot for me to learn. And going back to earlier conversations, some people talked about lifelong learning. And that really was my moment of realizing, you know what, there's a lot I can learn from a lot of people. And I thank him for that opportunity. And he's actually helped me get to where I am today with other programs. I mean, I've been leading ACAT-1 programs now for almost 5 years. So I'm very thankful for that opportunity, exceedingly important for my career.
Thank you. But Dr. Sawyers.
Yes, so I have a somewhat similar story. I was working in AFRL. I was a GS-14 equivalent. I had been asked to stand up a new functional 2-letter over there at the 14 level. It was the Chief Learning Officer, brand new function. I'd been in that job for about 2.5 years, and I was loving life. My background is industrial organizational psychology. It's working with people, organizational effectiveness, and I was doing it. And I had my own office. I, was finally had a seat at the table, and I really loved my job. And then I was approached by a former boss and mentor who said, hey, Jessica, I'd like you to come be the chief of staff for the Strategic Development Planning and Experimentation Office. So they do Section 804 programs, prototyping, experimentation, capability development, nothing like I was doing, nothing like I had ever done in my career. It was a lateral, so no more money, no more promotion, and it was an Air Force level program. And so it was absolutely more work, longer hours, in a brand new area that I did not feel confident in. And I had this conversation with this mentor who was offering me this job. And it was one of those moments where I just said, are you sure you have the right person? Are you sure you want me? Why do you want me? I don't know if I know enough to do this job. And he said, look, that's kind of the point. I want you to come in and learn something new. You need to learn more technical things if you want to work in the lab. You need to show me how you can lead people, not just one small office. I want you to help me lead the people and do the supervision for this organization and stand it up. And it's a challenge, and I need you to prove yourself a little bit if you think you're ready for that next level. And so I accepted that job, and it was phenomenal. And actually, it has helped me tremendously as I've switched over here to AFL-CMC, because so much of what we do over here, particularly in AQ, is that capability development. The connections that I made with AFWIC up in the Pentagon, those have all just been monumental. It was a totally different peek under or behind the curtain, I guess, into how things really work in the Air Force, in acquisition, and in DC. And it absolutely was one of those jobs that changed my perspective, my understanding of what was in the realm of possible, and the trajectory of my career. So a lot of work, no more money, no more notoriety, but it was an opportunity to shine. It was one of those sink or swim moments that in retrospect, I am so, so grateful for.
And Mr. Jenkins, let's hear from you for a second.
Sure. So, I think it was Ms. Tillman that mentioned earlier on that when I was starting in the system, I was told point blank that if I wanted to be promotable, I had to be mobile. And so as I, developed relationships with my mentors, they provided opportunities. And I started in the non-appropriated fund system. And the NAF system is similar to ACDEMO in that a lot of the positions are paid banded. So whether you're moving from one position to another, it's considered a lateral move, even though it may be, slightly more responsibility, a slight increase in pay, what have you. But you're in a very similar activity, moving from one installation to another. So there were a number of times, probably 5 or 6, that I PCS from one base to another into a lateral move. But it was a different organization. It was more responsibility. It was an opportunity to, learn and build on those team building skills, leadership skills. And those are all stepping stones to having the ability to promote once you get to that opportunity. But it's understanding that you're developing your subject matter expertise in the position that you're in, and you're doing the best job that you can in the position that you're in, always with an eye on the future. So as I worked through that system, it was incredibly important to, 1, have a mentor, and 2, be mobile. That's not necessarily the case any longer. But even being mobile within an installation, moving, as Dr. Sawyer was saying, moving from one office to another organization or what have you, always having those opportunities. It may be a lateral move, but the experience that you're going to gain in that other follow-on position is just incredibly important to your overall development.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Agnew.
Yeah, so I've had more of a vanilla career and have been in engineering in the center here, or under previous titles for my whole career. So I wasn't interested in mobility and those types of things that were required back then, and just worked my way up as an engineer. But I had several lateral moves. So as a young engineer, I wanted to gain more experiences. So I was a navigation engineer, so I'd work the navigation systems and integration on one platform, and then do that for a few years, and then move laterally to another platform. Because of that, I spoke to it earlier about the importance of getting those broader experiences across different platforms, different user commands, different phases of acquisition. So all those moves were lateral, but they were beneficial and growing to me. And then as I moved up in engineering, we have 2 career paths, one a technical path and one a management path. And I started out being a technical person, but then became a chief avionics engineer. So then I entered the management path, but then I took a lateral back to the other side to become a technical expert in an engineering area, and then finally moved back over to the management side. So one point I wanted to make is that lateral moves between those tracks is perfectly fine, and will help you maybe figure out where you want to be and where you're best suited for. So that's kind of what I did, jumping back and forth, all within right pad engineering for my career. So that would be my advice.
And Dr. Weber, ma'am, let's go to you.
I've had a number of lateral positions. I was fortunate enough to, the first 12 years of my career propelled me to a GS-15 or the equivalent. And so for the next 12 years or so, I spent a little bit longer than that actually, taking lots of different GS-15 lateral positions. And two I'd just like to briefly mention was I was at the headquarters AFMC as a division chief at the Engineering and Technical Management Directorate. And I was interested in going to LCMC. And I remember thinking that I had been a GS-15 for a while and that the position I needed to go to was Director of Engineering for a wing. And a mentor of mine said, no, you can't skip over being a chief engineer for an ACAT-1 program. There's too much to learn there. And boy, you know, I think back, I ended up being the chief engineer for Global Hawk. And I think of those days and I learned so many lessons. And today, you know, in my current position in AQR, we are the office of the chief engineer for the Air Force. And I couldn't do that position without that type of experience. And then the other one I would just like to highlight was after that experience as chief engineer for Global Hawk, when it came time for maybe moving up to a director of engineering, I chose to change directions to go into program management. And that lateral career movement just really broadened my horizon and really opened my eyes to the work of the rest of the functionals and a broad perspective of the team that goes into generating, producing, fielding these awesome capabilities for the Air Force. And again, I have now gone between engineering and program management laterally in my career. And I think it's made me a better program manager and a better engineer. And I wouldn't have given up those experiences for anything.
That's great. So you've all become successful, or you're all clearly successful in your careers, but I'd like to know, how do you specifically, personally define success in your career, and what factors do you think have been the most important in helping you achieve that success? Let's go with Mr. Agnew.
Yeah, so, you know, there's success in other people's eyes, and then there's success in your own eyes. And I think the important thing is success in your own eyes. So we have people that I have worked with over the years that in engineering want to, they enjoy the deep technical work. They love being in a program office, being at that working level, and they do a great job, and they get incredible satisfaction from that. They have no desire to be a supervisor. And they have no desire to move up to a higher strategic level. They just work in the programs and become experts and contribute immensely. And they retire as a GS-13. And that is a hugely successful career for that person. They got job satisfaction out of that. They were, you know, much happy with their situation and their career. So that was success. A lot of people, probably everybody, is driven a little bit by money, but to different levels. So as you take on more responsibility and move up that ladder, and your sphere of influence increases, and your ability to contribute to the larger Air Force increases, you know, your pay can increase. But I think mainly it's deciding whether that's for you, whether that is what's going to make you feel successful. But the bottom line is, no matter what job you have, doing the best you can do at that job. And I think it's important to connect your job, whichever it is, to the end goal of the Air Force, which is supporting the warfighter who's, you know, some 18-year-old kid out there fighting for what we enjoy here in the United States, and taking pride in that. That's the most important thing. And I think every job in the Air Force contributes to that end goal, and you just need to remind yourself of that path and what that is, and take satisfaction in that, because that's a huge contribution that you're making for your country. So whatever level you are, I think that's how you would gain the satisfaction.
Mr. Wymans.
Yeah, so my very similar. My my goal is obviously to leave the Air Force a bit better than I found it, have meaningful contributions, and help develop a workforce behind me that can carry on that goodness. To me, I think part of it, you asked about what was our a factor that's helped attribute to success. To me, it's being able to play well with others, because that's the most important thing, is being able to work with our teammates and counterparts in order to successfully achieve the mission. We can all be the brightest, the smartest folks out there, but if we can't communicate and work with each other, it's not effective.
Thank you. And Mr. Beck.
Wow, Dan kind of stole mine, but basically it's to leave the workplace better than I showed up in it, right? I want to have a positive impact on other people. I didn't become a supervisor because of just money, right? I became a supervisor because I wanted to improve upon things that maybe didn't go well for me, maybe some lacking areas I saw. So I really am looking to basically impart some wisdom if I have any to impart, but basically learn from others. And at the end of the day, cultivate a culture of education wherever I go, where risks are okay, we learn from them, we move on, we don't make them again. So really just looking for kind of a culture of education around the Air Force wherever I go. And hopefully others will take on that mantle in their programs, and we'll all be smarter for it at the end of the day. And
Thanks,
I guess
sir.
if you're looking at one thing that would enable that, right, is the ability to listen. And I think that's really helped me. So many people talk without actually stopping to hear things. And I think it's important we all stop and listen to everyone around us. That's how we'll get smarter.
Thank you. And Ms. Tillman.
Great points by all three, especially Matt. Taking the time to listen, that's huge, right? To hear what's being said and not just saying what you want to say, but actually getting your point across and listening to what other people have to say too is so important. And just really goes back to that whole teamwork, right? That's where I find success is in the organization, that, when I'm leaving there, and the teamwork that we've been able to build in that group and that organization, and success and efficiencies and integration between, on our side, our cost, our budget folks, and as well as working with our PK and EN and PM counterparts, right? That whole team together is what makes our mission and our individual offices become successful. And that's where we find it. So just spending the time with the people and growing and developing them has been really key for me in finding success. Thank you.
So we're coming towards the end of our discussion. And so before we wrap up, I'd like to just kind of ask if you have any thoughts that we've missed out on, or something that you think is important that we should cover. Let's go through. Ms. Davis, we'll start with you, ma'am.
With the last question, thinking that, for me, happiness, fulfillment make a difference. But in doing, I always thought, I hear people say, I never hated to come to work because I enjoy what I do. So therefore, at it. And we have to be able to teach and to mentor the ones that are around us, either our peers or sometimes above, sometimes below. But we have responsibility to do that so that they can take on more responsibility, take our job, or take on responsibility in other places. And then about the moving laterally or forward.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a promotion is forward, and I don't think of lateral being anything whatsoever. Forward is learning. Are you new? Are you trying something new? Are you dedicated where you contributing to the mission? I took several lateral decisions along the way. Sometimes because I was asked to, sometimes because I wanted to know what was going on. So I asked questions, and then I got moved to that. So that's an important thing. I think we have to be sure we teach the people around that you don't need to key off the promotion. That's not the only forward. The forward, expanding your knowledge. That's forward.
Mhm.
Unless you're just sitting still and being lazy and nothing, then you're moving forward.
Right. Ms. Tillman?
What great advice, Mary. Forward is learning, absolutely. So I just, not all paths are created equal. Obviously, there's a collection of people that are here, and we've all had different experiences, different offices, met different people, and we've all been successful in that path moving forward, and have learned on that road. So just that it's your path, it's your own individual path, and you have to build that with your communication with your supervisors, and your family, and your own personal goals, and what works best for you at the phase of life that you're in, and what's going on in all aspects of your life, right? That all factors into it. So just know that no path is the same, and that's okay, because it is your path.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Fruworth?
So I wanted to talk about the question number 4, where they talked about the career, successful career and experiences. So like everybody else has said, I truly believe, like they have mentioned, that a successful career is an individual choice. Any grade level, you can want to be a GS7, and that's totally fine. I think the key would to make sure that you're in a position that you're happy in, one that you're content with and have fulfillment, self-fulfillment with. That's when you know that you're there and you should be there. But probably most important, I want to talk about the key to the professional success, I think, is flexibility and attitude. I think flexibility, because we all come in situations that we never anticipated that we would reach, or circumstances. And so we need to be flexible and be able to be adaptive and change as environments change for us. And then as far as attitude go, I just want to say attitude is everything. I personally try to be the employee that I would want to have working for me, the one with the can do, will do, go do attitude. A positive attitude is an attractive attitude, and one that others will seek and will follow. I think that's very important. So I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. That's really important. Dr. Sawyers?
Yes, so my thoughts are, one of the things I tell everybody that I either mentor or supervise is, do not accidentally have a career. Don't reach your retirement date and say, how did this happen? Or I wish I would have. Really, there is no definition of success, and there is no blueprint for success, and there is no blueprint for what a good career looks like. These career path guides have been developed to help you, but they are just that. They are guides. They are a menu of options so that you know what that realm of possible is that we've been talking about. Successful careers look very different for different people. And so make sure that you're not only working hard, and you're not only making those relationships and having mentors, but that you're also spending time thinking about, what do I want to do? What am I good at? Where can I make an impact for our Air Force? And that you are actively participating in your own career and your own career path. Because at the end of the day, you're responsible for that. And so it's going to take you kind of taking a look at that and thinking through what you want to do and where you want to be. And then having those conversations with those mentors and those other folks to help you understand where you want to be. So at the end of the day, don't arrive at year 30 and wonder how you got here or wish you had done something different. So make sure that you take time to do some of that planning for yourself.
Thank you. And Dr. Weber?
So I would say, everybody's made such great points. I always tell people, it's your career, and you have to own it. You have to speak to people and tell them what you're looking for. You have to re-examine your goals periodically, and take stock of what you've achieved. It's often good to keep a list of things that you feel really good about. It's great to pull those out in times when you're feeling less confident than others. It's great to remember those nuggets of things that you've achieved. But ultimately, you don't achieve anything by yourself. So I think that at the end of the day, when my career is over, I will look around and see how many people I have helped and supported. And did I leave the Air Force stronger, with a workforce ready to meet the challenges of the future? And I feel like I've done that through mentorship and through solid supervision, but there's room for improvement. So I'm going to keep striving for that, because I am almost at my 30-year mark, and not accidentally where I'm at, but through a lot of hard work. And I hope to be able to be in a position to help other people in the future. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Wyman.
Thanks. Yeah, I think most everything's been said. I'd just like to emphasize or echo the deliberate aspect of it, that obviously know what you're getting into when you take on a job, and definitely take that responsibility seriously when stepping into a position. You talk to, as was mentioned, your support structure, your family, to make sure that, excuse me, you're able to fulfill whatever the needs are of that position. But then also, as I've seen as we progress, I think be aware of the responsibility we have back to the organizations too, right? So, make sure that, so for instance, in my position, that if I were to leave to go take the next thing, have I helped establish an accession plan, or at least locally in my control, a group of folks that can take over after me, vice, in a sense, leaving an organization without that.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Pollack.
Yeah, I would say that a lot of the other folks have mentioned it. It's a personal responsibility when you're developing your career path. And like somebody eloquently stated, don't let it be an accident when you finish your career, because I think it's real important that you're happy going to work, you're contributing to the mission. And the bottom line is the career path models are there to help the individual kind of plan a visual approach to their career, but they also have to be able to provide results and show proven results for that next position. So.
And Mr. Johnson, we'll conclude with you.
Wow, well, that's a little bit of pressure there. So I just wanted to offer up. So I don't know that we touched upon it in depth, but relationships really matter. And when you look across your career, it's not just relationships within your functional, it's relationships within your IPTs and your teams. Some of the more rewarding feedbacks I've received have been from folks outside of my functional that I've worked with. And I always encourage, when I get to talk to the younger folks coming on board, take time to nurture those relationships. If you've had an opportunity to be mentored by somebody, even within your functional or with outside of your functional, take the time to nurture those relationships and reach out periodically, give that person updates, ask advice at different times, but really put the investment in nurturing those relationships. And it really does pay back when you're going through your career.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me thank you again for joining us on Leadership Log today. I think this has been really important and very helpful information that will be of benefit to a lot of people who are still planning their careers, and maybe even those who are still in the midst of their careers. So thank you again for joining us today.